Hey everybody, welcome to another entry in the Hyrule Compendium. And, coming out of E3, there's just been all these new tidbits and all these little interviews and stuff. Today we're focusing on this little thing that Aonuma hinted at in an interview with Jason Schreier over at Kotaku, where they were talking about, we had all these DLC ideas for Breath of the Wild. So many, too many. So we just thought, let's just put them in a new game.
Right, and I think he elaborated saying, he didn't want to change the world too much in the original.
Right, I mean, there's that was a thing when they were developing Breath of the Wild, where they're like, every change we made to some mechanic or something, we had to make sure it didn't, throw off anything else in the world, so...
Right. My initial thought was, is this sort of are they just... Is it kind of like a cheap answer? Almost, we were going to make a DLC, but... Ooh, we can make a full game out of it instead.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I get that initial reaction, but that's not really what it is.
Yeah, the more I think about it, no. Because I think back to Ocarina, Majora's Mask could have been called DLC at one point.
Right. Well, plus they were these were just ideas they had. This wasn't we were developing these DLC and then we're like, you know what? Mm-hmm. New game. Right. They were literally oh yeah, we had all these ideas that we wanted to make, and then we're this is just enough for us to just spin it off. So I assume they're going to be doing more than just a DLC worth of a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if you're using Majora's Mask as an example.
Yeah. And Aonuma had also talked about wanting, and we've sort of mentioned this before, but he said he wanted to reuse the same world again.
Yeah. And he wanted to revisit that Hyrule, he said.
Yeah. So I know I speculated in our previous video that I don't think this game is going to take place in the same world, but it seems clear it's going to take place in the same Hyrule now.
I'm still not sure if it's going to be the way we think of it, though. I don't know if that means hey, here's just more story on this exact same map.
I'm curious.
I've heard all this speculation, or different theories about how it could be and I think what makes the most sense to me is someone, I don't even remember where I heard this, but they're they might do something where it's there's sort of a dark world.
Okay.
Or alt world, where it's a familiar world, but stuff's different, so you're still, they can change things up here, oh, there's a mountain here now, or this here now, so they can kind of mess around with it, make it feel new, but still you could reuse a lot of that same area, much like how the Dark World is very similar to Hyrule in A Link to the Past.
Because then they can just literally copy paste and then alter without rebuilding in a way.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Right, it doesn't matter if it's identical, because people know oh yeah, it's not a mirror world. It's things are topsy-turvy here. Who knows? Maybe the desert is a lake or something. I don't necessarily think that it means it's gonna be like Breath of the Wild 2 starts off this world and then things just happen there,
Mm-hmm. Part of me hopes that the world, it's 10 years later. I kind of speculated about this in the last video too, where can you picture where Kakariko Village is?
Yeah.
And then if you leave Kakariko Village to the northwest, there's a little pathway, and it just opens off into the, let's call it the Saharasa Hills or something.
Sure.
Or downslope or whatever. It's good, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And it you can see that there was at one point a path that eventually goes to the Lanayru wetlands. And,
okay.
And I hope that in this new game, it's 10 years later, Hyrule is no longer, it's united again.
Uh-huh.
And the path has been made, broken bridges have been fixed, infrastructure is upgraded.
That could be cool too if they did want to set it in the same world. You could see the towns grow. Yeah, maybe new settlements on the paths or stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a whole new. There's Kakariko West. It's
oh yeah.
They carved out part of the mountain or something and made a
There's
whole
suburbs.
the suburbs of Hateno.
Yeah.
They should just call it that.
The suburb Hateno Burbia.
Well, I remember was it in Phantom Hourglass? It was the Inuki. It was I think it was called the Inuki Estates.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's funny.
The
Yeah,
Hateno Estates.
Hateno Hills.
Yeah, all built by what was the Hudson Construction. Bolson Construction. Yeah.
One of those sons. Yeah, you can see what happened to Terrytown. There's like potential for what could be cool on that map if it is just a straight up sequel.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna get something different where we're still, it's not like you're gonna load it up and there's all the same shrines or whatever.
Well, yeah, the shrines could go away.
Yeah.
There doesn't need to be any shrines at all. And I don't think there needs to be any like Sheikah Towers. Like that could have been like those have gone back into the ground, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, then the other speculation that I saw or whatever theory someone had was, castle rises up out of the ground. Who knows what else could rise up out of the ground?
Right.
Yeah. So like you could have whole new structures, whole new things. I don't know how many things could really be underground, but
yeah. Well, yeah, what is happening in this Hyrule that there's?
This is a really strange world they live in.
Yeah, I mean they already dug up all these beasts.
They dug up the beasts.
So
there are whole towers. Like
yeah. Well, if they knew about the beasts, like did they not dig any further? Well, there was a shrine underneath, or the whole dungeon underneath the Shrine of Resurrection. That I wonder if they knew about that.
Yeah.
This
is better not to think about that aspect.
I think it's the same world.
Yeah.
But it's like heavily evolved a little bit, I think is the right word.
Like you said about that opening or that scene in the trailer, that could just be the opening cutscene.
Right.
Maybe that's a flashback and we're 100 years later.
Yes.
Much like in A Link Between Worlds where, it still reminds you of that same map, but they can change features of it and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, mountains don't change that much over 100 years, but
right.
Or maybe they go 10,000 years later. You know what I mean? Like they reuse the same map, but they could still tweak it even by having it be the same map.
That would be a great idea if it's like. It's the great grandkids of Bolson are now running the construction site.
Right, yeah. That could be fun too, yeah.
Link and Zelda go in sort of like time loop or whatever, so they're still the same age or whatever. But everybody else
they sleep, yeah.
Like Prince Sidon is now King Sidon.
Oh yeah, I like the sound of this.
Yeah,
he's like super old too.
Yeah, he's old, man.
Yeah, because you could still have some of those characters. They could live for quite a while.
The Zora live forever.
Yeah,
aren't they like hundreds of years old? So.
Right.
But I want to see King Sidon. Oh my god, I love it. He's like an old man and he's got like arthritis in his shoulder.
I like that idea.
Because then they can evolve the world by still using the same world then.
Right, yeah.
Because they can heavily change it.
And they can be like, oh, look, this river has now created a canyon or whatever, or like these mountains have kind of crumbled over time. You can kind of get creative with the landscape again, and it's not.
It doesn't need to follow the same, the Earth mechanics of like tectonic plates or something. Like this world has shifted a little bit more.
Yeah, right. We're come on, scientists, let's chill out. You don't need to come and be super critical of the geographic changes here.
Yeah. But they don't need to change that much of the geography, I think.
I think they need to change something to make it feel like you're rediscovering things.
Right.
Though I think maybe changing not just the geography but the political or whatever, the society.
Yeah.
Changing like the different towns and stuff, that would also feel like new things to discover,
Right, yeah.
Like, so yeah, maybe I've already climbed up like Picori whatever, but now I don't even know if that's a hill or a mountain, but whatever. Maybe I've climbed up this hill or whatever before in Breath of the Wild, but now you climb up there and there's like a settlement up there.
Okay.
Or like a camp. It's like, okay, so even if I memorize the entire map of Breath of the Wild, there will be things to find in this new map,
Yeah, and I don't think most people have memorized the map because there's a lot of areas that some people might have examined like thoroughly, but like odds are if I just put Link in a random location in the map where there's no substantial geographical feature in the background, you probably won't know where you are. Like if you're just in the middle of like Hiteno region, but not by a city.
I sort of disagree, just because that game is designed to where you can always like see,
Pan and look at, oh, there's Death Mountain,
there's the castle, there's the divine beasts, you know, like
right.
just kind of a. But say that didn't exist, you know, or you're still not going to be able to pinpoint your exact spot. So it's a huge world. So
yeah.
We didn't really talk about just that idea of like they had all these DLC ideas.
Right.
So probably new mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah, some new items, maybe new abilities.
The hand thing we speculated about.
Yeah.
There's going to be a hook shot.
Yeah. I'm sure at some point there was talk about a traditional dungeon in there.
Oh,
and
sure.
they're like, they didn't know how, probably, it's like, how do we factor in a full dungeon?
Uh-huh.
They kind of did that already with the initial DLC, but it was not a traditional dungeon. And they're like, well, why don't we just push this idea to the next game?
It also makes me think, so like when you do the missions like the one-hit obliterator thing,
mm-hmm.
you're re-exploring that same area, but it's different and there's new setups and stuff, and you've got that item. Maybe they had another similar thing where it's like, yeah, you re-explore the same area, but with this fun mechanic we've theoretically thought of for this DLC.
Right.
And that changes the area, but then by them being like, let's spin whatever we've thought of into a full game, that could mean potentially some big reimagining of the entire land.
Yeah, and this is something that Nintendo has repeatedly done in the Zelda series too. Even think of games like Skyward Sword, where you go to this world and that like you go to the Faron Woods and then you return to the Faron Woods, now it's the Silent Realm, and then you return to the Faron Woods again and now it's flooded. They've used the same map multiple times, but they've altered the landscape a little bit. They've done that within the game.
Right.
And they've done that like with A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds as well.
So now if it's like, instead of just like, imagine if they had done that for Skyward Sword, but instead of like, oh yeah, we like changed up just Faron Woods, and they thought of, well, they sort of did with the Silent Realms.
Yeah, well, the Silent Realms are you're in the same world, but it doesn't feel like the same world.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of potential for this to be, like I said, feeling like Breath of the Wild, but being totally new.
Yeah. And it makes this solidifies my belief that this is a 2020 game too.
Oh, just because it's like
that they're reusing some of the world.
Yeah.
Because they're not building this from scratch. It's not going to take them 5 years to make this game.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how much, like, not just of the land gets used, but like the buildings and stuff too.
Right.
Because it would be cool to be like, oh, this used to be the clothes dyeing shop, It depends on how long it's been, but just to see how like even those little aspects change.
Yeah.
Sure, is Dueling Peaks gonna be there or not? But
maybe one of them has fallen off or something, and now it's a Lone Peak. It's like a Back to the Future thing right there. So what do you think about the landscape of Breath of the Wild 2? Because that's sort of what this turned into.
Yeah, I guess I love the design of it. I love the looking around, seeing stuff, seeing Calamity Ganon. Let us know, like, does this idea appeal to you of reusing the same world, the same map, or do you think that's what it actually is? Is this all smoke and mirrors?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
Wouldn't lie to us, so. Anyway, leave a comment, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe, come join our Discord, and thanks for watching.